Right, so I recently made this little animation for a competition called, Be Kind. It was in collaboration with Marshmellow, Adobe and Live Nation. And they have this really cool blog where they run a challenge. I think it's every month. Anyway, this month it was to make a short video about how you're being kind in the current climate with what's going on in the world. How are you being kind towards other people? The only rules were that you had to use some of the assets provided as well as your own content, and you had to put a video together using Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects or Adobe Rush. And I just came up with this idea where I would use the Marshmellow eyes. Straight away, for some reason, I saw them as the bodies of characters, so I'd give them limbs and heads, and I'd tell a little story with animation, because After Effects enables you to do an animatic or a walkthrough of stop motion before you actually go in there and make it all, just to make sure your timings work and that things look good for your animation. And then when you've exported from After Effects, you can pull that into something like Dragonframe and use that as a lineup layer, so it can be your reference frame by frame. And that can be really helpful to make sure that you get things just right. So first of all, I had these black Marshmellow eyes. That was an asset that they provided, and I separated them in Photoshop. So I duplicated the layer, erased one of the eyes, and then on the other layer I erased the other eye. So I then had two separate layers and I could separate the two eyes out. Then I wanted to make these into characters, and to do this I put a separate layer for each limb, and it was literally a paintbrush tool on a wide setting, and I drew a straight line for each limb. So very simple. And then the head, I increased the size of the paintbrush tool again, and I literally just did one dot for the head. Now to bring that into After Effects, I saved each individual layer with the correct naming as a PNG, so it would have a transparent background. And then I brought all of those layers in, so we have got everything on a separate layer. So we have the background, which was a paper texture that they also provided. It's just got a few speckles on it. Then we have got a right leg, a left leg, a right arm, a left arm. We have got the character body, and we have got the head. So you can see those were the layers for my character, and I brought these into After Effects. And the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make my character almost do a snow angel. It's kind of like the head moves down, he's a bit sad, he's just kind of like stuck in this world of like everything is out of his control. So I wanted to make the arms and legs move up and down, and then I wanted to make him spin so that his body filled the screen and the whole screen became black. So to do that, when you import a layer into After Effects, if you click on a layer, you've got this little icon here, which is the central point. And when you import a layer, it will always be in the middle. So where these dots meet, the middle is where you will find that. But when you want something to move, you don't want it to move from this point. So if I move this point back, this is where the point would be when you import something in. And you'll find that your arm would rotate from that middle point, which you don't want it to happen. So this tool at the top is called the Pan Behind Anchor Point tool. You can hit a Y on your keyboard to get to that, but you can also just click on it, and it means that you can click down and hold on this point and drag it to where you actually want your layer to move from. So this arm wants to rotate from where it's joined to the body, so I'm going to drop that pin there, and you'll see now when I rotate that layer that the arm is rotating from the position where it is joined to the body. So that's one of the first things you want to do in After Effects, is make sure that that point is in the correct place. When you're animating layers, there's this arrow on the left hand side, and if you drop down on that, you'll see all of the keyframes. And you can see when I was making the arm move, I keyframed an up and down movement on that arm. So You can see we're on that left arm and it moves down and then it moves back up. And you see these funny shaped keyframes. To get that shape, you highlight the keyframes, you right click, and then you go to keyframe assistant and you want to go to easy ease. And what that does is it smooths the motion. Somebody asked me, how do you get smooth motion? If you don't have easy ease on, then these little keyframes are going to look like diamonds. So if I put a new keyframe here on position, you can see it looks like a little golden diamond. Now if I right click on that, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, it changes into this shape. And that's going to mean that your movement between keyframes is much more fluid. And it eases into the movement, a little like I have taught with stop motion. So that's another trick to get your movement even more smooth. Now, obviously, I then wanted my character to spin and fill the frame. Now, to do that, you use something called parenting layers. So I had the character, the body, and what I wanted to do was attach all of the limbs to that body. So when I animated the body spinning, all of the limbs would come with it. And to do that, you use this lasso whip tool. So it looks like a little spiral, and you would take all of the limbs associated with that body and you would click down, hold, you get this little line, and then you would drop it onto the body and that would attach the limbs to it. You can see already here that it says that all these layers are attached to number 31, which is my character body. So that's a way of animating just one layer. You'll see if I open up the character body that I've animated a rotation happening on that body and everything else is following. So it means you only have to keyframe one layer, which is really useful. Another really easy thing that you can do in After Effects that's going to really improve how your animation looks is when something is moving at speed, when it's wafting its arms like this, or it spins to fill the frame like that. This column here with the 3 circles is the motion blur effect. It's really simple to use and it just simulates motion blur. So if something's moving fast, there's going to be a blur to its movement. Rather than it staying sharp every single frame, which can often jar with your eye and look a bit wrong, you can add this motion blur. And all you have to do is in the box, which will be empty like this, just tap, click your mouse, and it will fill it with the icon. And that will just add motion blur automatically. So that's pretty simple too. Now, when I got to the second part of the animation, you have got a little bit of character animation happening here. And you may think, oh, how have I moved the limbs like that? Well, let's click on a layer. So we're clicked onto the right arm. Now, if I open this up, you can see it looks far more complicated. We have got the puppet pin tool activated. So the puppet pin tool is this little, looks like a drawing pin icon. And when you click on there, you can add pins to a layer. So on the arm, I've added 3 pins, one at the shoulder, one at the elbow, and one at the end of the arm. Now to do this, you simply just click where you want them and it will add the pins. So you've added your pins, now you want to animate them, but you're not sure where to find them. Well, you click on the layer, so we're on right arm, and in the drop down you've got effects. And if you click on effects, you've got puppet, click on the drop down there, you want to go to mesh 1, that drops down. Then you've got this one called deform, click on there, and then you've got your puppet pin tools, which are the pins you've just put in. So you've got pin 1, pin 2, and pin 3. And to know which ones they are, if you select one, it will become solid. So we can see that that is the end of the arm. And you can animate these 3 pins separate to each other. But what you can see here is that I've animated this movement happening with the pins. So this was just the straight arm that I created in Photoshop. I haven't had to create anything else. I put the pins in and I just animate frame by frame where I want them to move to, and you can see it looks really natural and smooth. And you could go in there and change all of these keyframes to be that easy ease as well. I chose not to do that on this occasion for no specific reason really. I was making this very quickly, and in all honesty I probably just forgot to do it. But that is how I animated my limbs. And you'll notice that the flower pops out from behind the body. Well, I just put the layer of the flower behind the body, so you've got the flower is this lovely bright yellow colour, so that I could tell which layer that was, and that is just hidden behind the character's body. So if I remove the right hand character, you'll see that the stem of the flower is behind the body. So it's all about layering things in After Effects. You want to make sure that the right layer is behind the other layer, and sometimes you have to duplicate layers and sandwich things up. It can be as complicated or as simple as you want really. But yeah, I animated this flower, and then when the second character takes the flower, I actually just keyframed frame by frame the flower moving with the arm. I could have attached it to the arm. I chose not to on this occasion. And when the blue character sniffs the flower, it gives happiness. So the colour of the character changes to this lovely bright yellow. To do that in After Effects, you can add effects. So you can go to effects, all the sort of effects that you might normally see in other programs. And colour correction, you can do hue saturation. So when you change the hue of something, you're essentially changing the colour. And when you click on an effect in After Effects, you've got this control panel window, which means that you can keyframe anything. So you can see I've got two keyframes here. On the hue, we're on the blue up here, master hue. And if I just pull across, you'll see I just keyframed a different hue, and it just transitions between the two. Really nice and easy like that. I brought in the music for the music video that we were allowed to use. When you bring that in, it just looks like an ordinary layer. You may want to sync stuff up to specific music or audio. To open up an audio layer in After Effects, you want to double tap L, and that will then expand the layer out so that you're able to see the waveform. So you may want to sync up to certain parts of the music, and that means that you'll be able to see it. And to close the waveform, you can literally just click the drop down arrow and it will disappear. Now if you want to play back in After Effects when you're creating something, if you hit the space bar, it will play back your scene, but you're not going to be able to hear anything. It doesn't render your audio. So the only way to do that is to go up on the right hand side to the preview panel, and the last symbol on that panel, called the RAM preview, if you tap that one, that will render the audio as well. So as soon as this bar goes completely green on the screen, it will start playing the composition with the audio and the visuals at the same time. So when you want to export your finished animation from After Effects, you want to go up to Composition and then Add to Render Queue. Now, something that a lot of people don't realise is that you have to, on Lossless, on the output module, you have to tap on that and you have to select Audio Output, because otherwise it's going to export only the visuals and not the audio. And then at Format, you can change it to H.264, which is an MP4, and that's going to compress your file size down. And literally, when it's all ready, you just hit render on the right hand side and it will just render out. If you want to change where it's saving it to, on the output too, you can click on there and you can just select where that is going. I realised that there was a lot of information in this video, and I do hope it hasn't all gone over your head. Do let me know any questions in the comments and I will try and answer as many as possible. And if you're interested in learning more about After Effects, then I'm sure I could make some tutorials on that. I just didn't know if it would sit well on the channel because obviously my main focus is stop motion. That's what I love doing. I do enjoy After Effects, but only the simple stuff. So I'm not keen on all of the advanced features. When you keep things simple, often that's best. And I love the simplicity of using the puppet tool and making layered characters in Photoshop like this.